Hey guys, welcome back to the Suzuki Dual Sport build. In this episode, I got some welding to do and some new parts to install. Right up here is a link to a playlist that'll get y'all caught up. I'm going to start by taking the rear of the bike apart here. So I hit all these bare spots in the frame with some primer. I'm going to throw some paint on here too. Alright, so I'm pulling my sprocket off. This is a 530 16 tooth chain sprocket. And since I'm going to a 520 chain, I need to go to a 520 sprocket. So this is a 14 tooth. But my problem here is the spacing isn't quite right. So I'm going to have to build a spacer to go behind this. So over to the lathe, I guess. Alright, so I got this 1.5 inch slug of mild steel, and I'm going to make my spacer out of this. So here's some of the parts that I bought. I got a chain slider, I got a brand new chain, I got another shock to replace the one that's on the bike now, because the one that's on the bike now, unfortunately it's damaged beyond repair. So this also has a heavier spring on it. And here is the dash cluster I'm going to use. Because I went to a dirt bike front end, I'm going to lose my speedometer drive. So I need something to calculate my speed, and this dash cluster has all the functions that I need to make this bike work on the road. So I put this same dash cluster on my cross cart, and I like the way it functions. This is sold under several different name brands. So I'll just put a link down in the description for this if you want to use it on your project. This has all the shift gear indicators, tachometer, speedometer, trip, odometer. It's got the turn signal indicators. It's got everything that I need. So if you guys want to use this. Alright, well here's this all put back together. Got the chain and the chain guide on. Yep, I think that's going to work just fine. So I'm getting a little battery box made up here. I'm using some of this old scrap that I got laying around. So I'm going to get welding on this and see where it goes. Here's my setup. I want to get a couple tacks in these back two corners, and then I can line the front two corners. Well, here's that much of it. So I cut some tabs and I welded some nuts on the back after drilling some holes, and I'm going to use these to weld to the frame, that way this can be removed. Here's the completed battery box. I socked a bunch of speed holes in this thing to reduce its overall weight. So now I need to mount this on the bike. So this is the inner fender, and I had to shave some off the bottom of it, and there's these little tabs here that grab onto the frame. This one's broke off, so I'm going to take my soldering iron and weld this back on. This is just a piece of what I cut off of the bottom of it. I need to reshape this at the bottom here a little bit, so I'm just going to heat it up. I have this little rubber mud flap that went on the bottom of this. I'm going to reattach it. So there's the battery box mounted in there, and I also got some of the electronics mounted on there. I think my starter solenoid is going to go right down here. I'm going to mount it right to the battery box. So I'm getting closer. Yeah, I just drilled a couple holes and then threaded a couple bolts with some nuts on, and then welded the nuts to the battery box. Then I put some bolts through the starter solenoid and then ground them off flush on the inside. Yeah, well, I kind of screwed up there. That starter solenoid's interfering with my air filter, so I'm going to have to move it. Alright, so I moved it from the top up here to the bottom. I had to weld a little tab because I tried it. You can see this hole right here. I tried it there, but this was bumping the frame. So that little tab on the back there pushed it out. Now I got it this time. So don't be afraid to cut something back apart if it ain't right. Don't get discouraged. Just do what needs to be done. Yeah, I got all those put back together. Ended up being 8 wires cut. Yeah, that sucks. But don't tell anybody. Just keep it between us, okay? Shh. Be like it never happened. Well, I've got the wiring all, hooked up. Everything's all straightened out. This mess, I'm going to shorten all these wires, but I ran out of heat shrink, so I got to go to town. So that ain't going to happen today. But I got this all temporarily hooked up, and just for giggles, yep, she's still running. I got a pretty significant gas leak. I'm going to have to pull the carbs off. I think it's leaking out of the transfer pipe between the two carburetors. So, the carbs are going to have to come off. But not a big deal. This bike sat for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, so I'm not surprised. But I'd say a test ride is coming real soon. Well guys, the dual sport build's coming right along. I think I'm going to get a test ride in, but that'll be on another episode. I got to get the seat made. I got to tidy up some wiring, and there's a few other odds and ends I got to do. I got that gauge cluster I got to install, and of course I got to get tires on it. So there's some other work to be done to this bike, but I think that's all for this episode. Hey, if you guys stuck around to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing, hit that like button if you like this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.